Hey, welcome to another vlog of the Small Money, Big Dreams vlog series. I'm your host, Mohamed Spanam, and I'm here to talk about bonds. The last vlog I discussed more of the different investment criteria and purposes of the bonds and how they apply to your investment strategy. Today I'm going to discuss different kinds of bonds, and I'll throw in my preference as far as how to address a different kind of bonds. So bear with me. Because I wanted to go through a short list of bonds. I wrote them down so I can just pinpoint a bond and tell you what I'm looking at, tell you what I'm discussing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 bonds in particular that I'm going to discuss as far as types of bonds. The first bond I'm going to discuss is called high yield junk bond, and it's basically more of a that'll make it 7. High yield junk bond I discussed further in I discussed last vlog, and high yield junk bonds are the bonds that offer the highest interest. They're usually low quality as far as the company, and these are bonds that you can purchase, and they offer very generous interest rates on the bond. Some junk bonds offer as high as 10% interest. I've seen some that offer 13%, which is, as far as when we're discussing bonds, tremendous. But the likelihood of those bonds, reaching maturation is very low, and the default on those bonds are very high. So sort of like, it's a gamble, and the interest payments, which usually come every 6 months, enjoy them while you can, because there's a chance that you may lose your principal. So that's why I discussed in the last vlog, as far as if you're going to invest in junk bonds, or high yield bonds, invest through a fund that hedges some of your risk, because they'll spread your money out throughout different bonds. But let me get back to the 6 classes of bonds that I did want to discuss. First is a callable bond. Now, a callable bond is a bond where the issuer at any time may say, you know what, I don't want to continue to pay interest on this bond, because maybe the interest rate I decided to give you, it's higher than what I'm willing to give out. So, it's higher than what the current interest rates are, and I don't want to be locked into giving you so much higher interest than what the current borrowing rate is. So you know what? Here's your money back. And sometimes they give you here's a little extra something for letting me borrow the money. Sometimes they might give you an extra interest payment, like one more interest payment that you would have received, and then your principal, and then sever ties. And the good thing about callable bonds is, because they had the option to be called, they usually offer a more generous interest rate. And I would say the bad thing about callable bond is, there's a chance that you get your money returned back, which is not a bad thing, but the interest and the reason, receiving the interest income was the reason why you wanted to purchase the bond. And when they all of a sudden decide to call the bond, you lose out on the interest. You get your money back, and then you have to go back into the bond market. So that's kind of a negative thing. It's not too bad, but that's a callable bond. So basically, a callable bond is when a bond can be called at any time by the debt issuer. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, go for it. Like I said, my recommendation on callable bonds, they're not bad, but they're not high on my list. When I feel a bond is something that I would want you to investigate, I'll let you know. So the first was callable bond. Second is a convertible bond. I like convertible bonds because like I said in the previous vlog, is that, stocks are your investment value vehicles, growth vehicles. Bonds are your predetermined income vehicles, and receivables, cash equivalents, your CD accounts, those are your immediate income vehicles. So I mostly concentrate diversification and the concentration that I want you guys to have between stocks and bonds. CDs and cash equivalents, those are fine. To me, those aren't exciting. Okay, not that they aren't exciting, but to me those don't really meet more important investment criteria or strategies. Those are just like, what, I want to be really safe, I want to have my money soon, let me use those. So if you're just looking short term, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, like I said, hey, go for it. The CDs, the interests are usually low, and they're usually but it's better than having your money not gain no interest, or your money in your mattress. So let's go to the convertible bonds again. Sorry, I went on a tangent. I like convertible bonds because there's a chance that your bonds, you can either there's a chance that you can determine that you want to convert your bond into shares, or there's a chance that the company can decide, okay, you know what, instead of continuing to pay you on the debt that we owe you in the form of bonds, we're just going to convert it into a set number of shares. Now the good thing about that is, let's just say when you purchase the bond, that the company stock price was at $5, right? And then you purchased the bond, and they said, you know what, we'll give you the option of being able to call the bond. Instead of receiving your bond, your money back from the bond, you convert it into stock, and you have the option. If that is the case in your callable bonds, cool. So you have your money in the company's hands, and then you're watching their share price, and then all of a sudden it was at $5 when you purchased it, and for $5 they said that you could purchase 200 shares of stock. You convert your $1,000 into 200 shares of stock when you sign your bond contract, and then all of a sudden you're watching the company's stock, and it ballooned up to $10 a share and stuff like that. And unless it's pre-written in your bond contract, great. I would say great. Exercise your option to convert your bond into shares. Now you have 200 shares of stock at $10, so your $1,000 turned into $2,000. So, and if you had the bond for a year or longer, not only did your $1,000 quickly and turn to $2,000, but you received 2 interest payments during that time. So that would be a great thing if it happened. And obviously that's just an example, but that's the reason why I love the options of a convertible bond, because that flexibility allows you to have options. And I think the greatest thing in investing is having options, having different choices, and that's the key to diversification. I could do this, I could do that, I could put money here, I could put money there. So convertible bonds gets the 2 thumbs up from me. Now, just corporate bonds, we discussed corporate bonds in the last vlog, and corporate bonds are basically bonds issued by corporations, and investment grade is something that you want to consider. But and also another thing that's kind of cool about it is, it's easier for you to determine, which corporate bond you want to purchase by what you feel about the company, even if you don't want to follow investment grade. So, a Walmart, it's not hard for you to feel like, okay, Walmart, I got a bond with Walmart. what do I think about the company? You know the company versus, you know, buying bonds from institutions that you have no really knowledge of, and, you know, or a finance company that you don't have a knowledge of. Then you got to do heavy research. But a corporate bond, you know the company, you choose the company. You know, you could buy a Nike corporate bond, or Walmart, Disney, and it kind of lessens your personal feel of the grade of the bond. So, you know, Standard and Poor's could say they gave, you know, I'm just using an example, Sprint's bonds a rating of medium to junk, and that's not true, but that's just example. But you're like, you know what, I like Sprint. I think Sprint is strong. I'm gonna purchase the bond from Sprint, and you know what? You'll get a higher interest rate because Standard and Poor's rated Sprint, you know, with a low interest credit rating, which makes Sprint have to